With the announcement of the new Ion Pro, which I have a preview video available for if you're interested, SPI or Storm Products Inc., which includes the company's Roto Grip and 900 Global under its umbrella, announced a rather sizable list of balls that are now discontinued. Some were expected, while some are really surprising, so we'll go down through the list and talk about them. Starting at the top with the Storm brand list, the most shocking one on the list to me is the Journey. It's the latest Belmo ball, and it just came out on November 17th, which is less than 6 months ago. Bowling ball life cycles are getting shorter the faster new equipment comes out, but under half a year is just unheard of. I know it was a medium-strength ball that carried a premium price tag, but this is almost kind of an embarrassing admission that people either aren't interested in Belmo balls anymore, the balls aren't that great, or they're just too expensive for what they are. That also calls into question why they'd put the Lightning Blackout at that price point too. You can't give away Journeys, apparently, but we're going to put a weaker ball with no Belmo logo on it up for the same price? I don't get it, but moving on. Another shocking one at the top of the list is the High Road Pearl. It's very quietly been around for almost 11 years itself and saw just as much lane time on tour, if not more, than the original High Road. Belmo specifically used High Road line releases quite a bit. Now, to be fair, the High Road hasn't stuck around because it's still moving a ton of units, and I think the same was true of the High Road Pearl. I'm guessing that they thought that it was time to let it go as its moment had passed, and while I don't disagree, I'm still somewhat surprised that they actually did it. Next, and I don't have any footage for this one because we skipped over it, the Electrify Go, or Gold Orange. Just another Pearl Electrify, one right after the other, a very phoned-in last couple releases in the Electrify line, so I'm surprised it lasted this long, and expect that we'll be seeing something coming soon to replace it and reset the line. Now moving over to Roto Grip, the clone is gone. This one isn't surprising either. It did make it almost a year. It definitely wasn't the UFO alert replacement that they made it out to be, but it was really good, so I was disappointed it got mismarketed, and the prediction it wouldn't make it a year was a pretty easy and safe one. It was a nice blend of a strong rolling core and a medium strength cover, and it was an amazing ball for more difficult conditions. Extremely stable and controllable, very forgiving, and seemed to be the perfect strength for most of the more typically used sport conditions. The exotic gem surprises me only for the fact that I expected the original gem to be the one to go first. I've seen all kinds of exotics all over the place. I never really see the gem anymore, and the magic gem is so on top of the original that I don't really see the point in having both of them in the line together, but I'm assuming that there's just a reason here that we don't know. Maybe the original gets used a lot more by colleges and on tour. Maybe I just got a false sense of the popularity due to how many exotics I personally see being thrown, but it's also a good one. Very chuggy core, very strong cover, but with some length and shape to it, so when you needed a big ball, but also needed it to be able to recover and pick up stronger down lane, it was the perfect compromise. The tour dynamics is both a surprise and an expectation. Like I mentioned in my Ion Pro preview, it just ended up being way too weak to fit the design intent. It was amazing with a lot of surface on it, but it turned into a marble when it shined up and just needed way too much friction to be in play. And in that case, when you have a ton of friction, you don't really want a ball that rolls at your feet and that is slow down lane, so it just didn't really have a home. Mine is very effective, but in a very small amount of situations. It's hanging out in the box and will only come out for one tournament weekend a year, but it's very effective at the center that tournament is at. The Eternity for 900 Global isn't much of a surprise. It kind of ran its course. It wasn't exactly the altered reality replacement it was supposed to be either, and while it was a solid release that is about the best ball to bowler matchup I've ever seen for Angel, it doesn't have any outstanding qualities. It's kind of in no man's land, and if you let an Eternity Pi lane shine, they're virtually identical ball reactions, so I can understand the interest in that one just dipping below the line of relevance anymore, so no reason to keep it in production. Remember that we have Bowl Expo coming up in a couple months too, so they're likely just preparing for that further in advance this year and making sure that they get enough stuff through production that they don't have to worry about anything going on back order or have to back any release dates up. The Zen Gold label is another somewhat surprising one. It at least made it through league season, but I really liked it. It felt like a beefed up Fate or a slightly earlier and smoother Virtual Energy Blackout, so why it never caught on, especially with the name Zen on it, I'm not entirely sure. I would have bet on that one being around for a while, but I've seen some rumors about a new Zen coming, so it might have been making way for that. Now mine did get a fair bit weaker with use, but that might actually help some people. It'd give them a clean and rolly ball that would be hard to miss the pocket with. Finally, the exponent, the solid, the original, that's another one that's not surprising. Basically an IQ Tour with a little more flair. It was a pretty solid ball too, but it kind of shared the issue the TDX had of getting really weak when it shined up. That made it fairly good on friction, but being an earlier and smoother ball as well, that kind of limited its window of use. Now, Angel did like hers, but it rarely saw action because it just wasn't quite as good or effective for her as some other balls were. That will cover it. A pretty big list, and I'd imagine that as more balls continue to come out, SPI stuff might start seeing some bigger discounts after being discontinued than they have in the past. They may not get down as cheap as the B7 stuff typically does, but if you can get a good deal on any of these, I wouldn't argue with picking up any of them. Once again, I do have a preview for the new Ion Pro up. That's linked on the screen if you want to take a look at that. Also, remember to hit the description for links and discount codes. Thanks for watching, and may the strikes be with you.